How's it going today, guys? Black here, and today I wanted to bring you guys a PvE tier list in terms of DPS for Swords of Legends Online. So we've had quite a bit of time to play Swords of Legends Online. September is rolling around, and at the moment we have 5 raids in the game, and I wanted to give you an updated tier list for PvE. Now just keep in mind, this is my personal impressions of each class, just based upon the interactions that I've had with them in my time playing solo and experiencing them within each individual raid. So just take it with a grain of salt. And we're going to start from left and move on to right. So starting out first, we're going to start with the Bard. So right now, I think the Bard is in a great place in PvE. The reason why I think the class is in such a great place is because it has good AoE, it has really good burst, its range, it has very simple combos that you can initiate and get off. It's overall a very solid all-around class with no real downside, and is actually pretty survivable in DPS. And then overall the Bard is in a good place, and I think it's probably one of the most stable classes in the game. You can do well with this class in almost any raid, any dungeon, So let's talk about Berserker now. Berserker is one of the classes that I ranked in PvE as a B tier class. And part of that had to do with the fact that I didn't really play the class as much, and a lot of players simply don't play the class. And even to this day, a lot of players still don't play the class. And I think that has a lot to do with the difficulty of the class. I do think it's a little more mechanically challenging than the rest of the classes available, but I still think it's a very solid all-around class. So far, from what I've experienced with the class, it does really good reliable AoE damage. It does really good burst damage. I've actually seen this class help tank the Ice World raid in DPS form because it's actually pretty tanky relative to being a DPS class. So, Berserker, real high damage if you have the right gear and the good rotations. Now let's talk about Reaper, because Reaper has been probably my lowest rated class in PvP and PvE. And a lot of that is because I actually didn't really get to see Reaper shine in the closed beta. And even for a while within the game, Reapers were just not being played. And now that the good players are actually starting to learn the class, and actually showing you what the Reaper can do, I think the class overall is an absolute S tier class. The class has 2 really good builds, the Poison build and then the War Moon build, which is really high burst, sustained burst damage. Not many classes has very high sustained burst damage. And I think Reaper is probably the best damage class in the game in most situations, if it's in the right hands. Now, I do want to say the class is by far the most difficult class in the entire game, most mechanically challenging class, and it will take a lot of time getting used to using the builds. But once you get Reaper down, it is like probably one of the, if not the best DPS class in the game. My impressions of this class was really low, and I gave it a really low rating, but I figured eventually once people discover how to use the classes, it was going to actually get out of control, and it very much is out of control. Nerf Reaper, kidding. Anyway, next let's talk about Spearmaster, because this is the class I play currently right now the most. So I gave this class an A tier during the closed beta test because I thought it was really good, and I didn't want to be biased because I play it, and I guess I was wrong because it is absolutely an S tier class. It has really high burst, it has pretty good sustain, it has, well, sustained DPS, it has very good survivability in most close range situations, even though it's like a DPS class. Like I said, it has one of the best bursts in the game, and I think it's actually pretty easy to pick up. Not exactly easy to master, but definitely easy to pick up in my opinion. And that's why I give it an S tier. So we're going to talk about Spellsword. Next we're going to talk about the Spellsword. So as you know, Spellsword comes with 2 classes in terms of DPS. It's the range version and its melee version. I played the melee version during the closed beta test, and I continued to play it. Unfortunately, I didn't get the best gear drops for my class, so I ended up giving up on it and going to Spearmaster. But I still think the Spellsword, and I'm gonna say overall, I think it's a S tier class. Not its melee form, but it's just a press of a button to swap, to be honest. But its range form is just insanely good. The class has very simple combos that does very effective damage, really good AoE, really good burst damage. It's a range class, so that's already good. I think it's really easy to manage the resources for a sword artist compared to Bladestorm. And then if you decide you want to play Bladestorm, you can actually play as an off tank and still sustain DPS in like some of the newer raids like Light, for example. I mean Ice World. So it's actually pretty insane. Also, one big perk that the Spellsword come with that's range is it has a ability called Exorcism. It's a glyph, and it makes it so that it removes negative debuffs off of you. And everyone knows with the newest raid, especially Ruins, there's a lot of cleansing and a lot of dealing with stacks. And having a Spellsword range that's really good DPS, cleansing himself from without having the healers do it is invaluable. So Spellsword at the moment is insane to me, and I think it's probably the best range class in the game, but that's just me. So next and finally, Summoner. So Summoner was one of the classes that I ranked as an A tier in the closed beta test. A lot of that had to do with when I saw players play it, they did fairly decent, but I didn't know too much about it to give a fair opinion. So I just gave it an A because I felt like that's a very average spot for most classes in the game. And as you can see with my tier list, that is absolutely true. Most will be A tier or plus. And I think right now, I still don't see as many summoners that I would like to see, but when I do see summoners, they are actually almost always at the top. For me, sadly, I still haven't seen enough summoners to give you the best rating for these guys. At the moment, I think they're good. Some people say they're at S tier. I'm going to keep them in A because while I do think they're good, the people I see playing them good, I don't consistently see them enough to really give a good number. So I'm going to give them an A tier right now. And I'm sorry about that, my summoner players. It's just hard to find you guys. Now I want to be clear here. This isn't in any particular order except for the S tier. I do think the Reaper is number 1. And I think the Spearmaster and the Spellsword could be interchangeable. And then the A tier, I don't think that's in any particular order. It's just whatever. But I think overall the classes in Swords of Legends are pretty good in terms of balance and usage in PvE. With that said, thanks for watching, guys. I really hope this video was informative for you guys and gave you guys a better understanding of what classes feel like right now in the current game. And I hope you understand that every class is viable in PvE. But that's going to do it for this one. Don't forget to hit that like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later, guys.